We have with us someone who has spearheaded NDA-I's first generation of reforms in the power sector. He was the author of the Electricity Act 2003. My reference is to Suresh Parbhu, former Union Minister for Power. He joins us today to tell us what may be the second generation of reforms in the power and infra space. Mr. Prabhu, thank you very much for joining us. Well, first up, we saw you very active in that economic conclave on February 27th. You spoke, you shared the podium, the dais with Narendra Modi, the President, the Prime Minister designate. What is the sense you are getting of the new cabinet itself? We are all expecting that you may be playing a big role over there. Have you been sounded out?
You know, Mr. Modi is one of the few first Prime Minister, in my opinion, who has clarity on many subjects which he talked about during all his election rallies. I think election should be a process of education, as people have been saying, but it's the first time that Mr. Modi has educated the people of India, as well as the people generally, about what needs to be done for the country, what ails the country, and what are the solutions for that. Unfortunately, what he was talking about was 90-95% of his speech was not very well reported, but what was reported was something which was something political. So therefore the impression was that he talked only politics, but he rarely spoke about politics, but he talked about developmental issues. So I think having this clarity in his mind about what needs to be done on almost all the issues that confront the country, I think he will be the one Prime Minister who will be one of the most successful ones. In fact, if you really look at it, he has been the Chief Minister of Gujarat on 3 consecutive terms. He has worked on almost all aspects on which the national government should take action, because the action is really speaking in the states. And therefore,
Mr. Prabhu,
first time, in my opinion, the third time Chief Minister is coming to center, first time.
Yes.
So you just imagine he's coming with the experience, the knowledge of ground realities of working in the states.
Mr. Prabhu, you know, both the Indian electorate and the entire swathe of media and markets in India Inc. Have recognized that this is the first time that a Chief Minister with a successful 10-year track record is becoming Prime Minister. That difference has been extolled enough. I wanted more, you know, the market is now looking for more, directions as to the future. I really want to know whether you will continue to play a big role in the cabinet like you did in NDA-I. Have you been sounded, and will you be in the power and energy space?
You know, I have no idea about that, but what I'm saying is Mr. Modi himself has so much of clarity on energy and power. You know, he has talked about an idea which I want to reiterate again. He had suggested to the then Prime Minister that India has 300 days of sunshine in almost 90-95% of the districts of India, including Ladakh. So, you know, we have a solar energy potential of that magnitude. His suggestion was, could we not make a club of such countries who have a similar profile of getting sun rays and type of radiation, and could we therefore make a club, and then his parlance was, if OPEC could be the cartel and for selling petroleum products, why not the countries which are really speaking has this potential to come together to make sure that we harness our solar energy to our own good? You know, which I don't think anyone who has thought about an idea of this type. What a consequence of this would be if we actually scale up the solar production of a magnitude that is available. Just imagine the prices will crash of the solar panels. It will actually solar thermal, which is CSP, concentrated solar power. The same Chief Minister is trying to develop in his own state a wind energy of a large magnitude, but more importantly, the tidal energy. You know, we have got 7,600 kilometers of coastline in India. Gujarat has the longest coastline in the Indian states. Just imagine if we harness the tidal waves to harness energy, how much of our energy dependence on imports will go down, and how much in shortest possible time could be a reduction.
Mr. Prabhu, so, you know, if you had to just give us the, say, the top 3 executive decisions that are needed in order to revive the power sector and the low-hanging fruit that the government can, execute with immediate action, what would they be?
You know, if you really look at power sector, there has been the act which was passed, and we had personally prepared integrated power sector development blueprint. Unfortunately, we never implemented it. Like, for example, in the legislative provision, we have open access, which we are not able to put it into play. We have a renewal purchase obligation for almost all the states to buy, then also the utilities to buy. Just imagine that itself will have so much of effect of pull to bring in more renewable energy. We have already talked about distributed generation. Just imagine if not only grid connected power, but all the 650,000 villages, depending upon the locally available energy resource, whether it is wind, solar, biomass or now tidal or anything else, if you can harness that energy locally and distribute it locally, either through local self-governments like Jilla Parishad, Gram Panchayat, or through cooperatives or through NGOs, just imagine the transformation that will take place and how much access we'll be able to provide to the people in the shortest possible time. So what I'm saying is, all the issues have been actually been prepared, blueprint was launched. I started distribution reforms and then we provided 40,000 crores for that. The only credit that the government could take, previous government could take, was saying that we spend the money. But it was not a spending of money which was the objective of this earmarking of this large amount of money. It was actually to create a distribution sector which should become commercially viable.
Yeah.
Once you make distribution sector commercially viable, automatically the upstream generation will happen. If we bring in open access, automatically the competition will come in.
Yeah,
if you
Mr.
bring in
Prabhu,
distributed generation, the large number of players can start generating and distributing electricity. So these are solutions which are already in place.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we never implemented
Now, I
them.
take your point that Mr. Modi's accent or the next government's emphasis could be on renewable and the other sources of power that has not so far been tapped, like solar, tidal and wind energy. But in the conventional energy sources itself, what are you expecting by way of reforms? Barring Gujarat, most of the DISCOMs are at the moment not even rated A by the rating agencies. Do you see major DISCOM reforms happening, and what could they be?
Yeah. You know, if you look at energy, we should not generalize it. So let us take first electricity sector. Now in electricity, there are large number of projects which are stuck because of lack of fuel supply. So we should try to resolve those issues as quickly as possible.
Actually, more than fuel supply, we now understand that demand is the problem, Mr. Prabhu. The DISCOMs simply don't have the money to go ahead and buy, I understand.
Absolutely, but we need to resolve those issues. So one part. The second part is, we really need to create a proper independent regulatory mechanism, which we already created, but they lack teeth and they lack independence, they lack autonomy. So we should do that. That's the first part for the electricity sector. Then, as I said, the distribution part, which I already mentioned. Then you go to gas and oil. 48% of India's sedimentation has still not been explored. What does it mean? That either we have huge reserves available there, but we don't know. So while we continue to import 70-80% of oil, we continue to import LNG because we don't have a pipeline to bring natural gas into the country. We should try to explore as much as possible and try to produce more. So that's oil and gas. Coal. We are unfortunately, despite claiming to be one of the largest reserves of coal in India, we have now become one of the largest importers of coal. Only from 3 countries: Indonesia, South Africa and Australia. So the dependence of importing from these 3 countries of coal, one country Qatar for LNG, and not producing enough in India is really a very high risk issue. Again, importing oil from countries which are already that particular geography is always fraught with dangers.
So what do you expect in coal?
Even if small little thing happens.
So what do you expect in